Are you a painting business owner stuck in the $300,000 to $500,000 range and you're looking for a way out? You're not sure what your next step is and you want to get to 7 figures of annual revenue? Well, in this video, I'm going to give you the exact roadmap on how to get there. But first, we're going to describe what's causing the plateau. What are the things that you're doing that you probably shouldn't be doing as a business owner? First thing you need to understand as a business owner is you are the chief executive officer. That means that you are the CEO. Now, in any thriving organization, there's multiple roles, there's multiple departments. You have the CEO, you have the COO, you have the CMO, the chief marketing officer. Okay, you have all sorts of different departments, VP of sales, VP of customer success. But in your painting business, it's just you. There's a lot to handle as a business owner at that stage. You have leads that need to be nurtured. You have maybe some phone calls coming in. You have crew management and hiring and recruiting, and you have customer service, previous customer service, future customer service. So what you're finding is that you're now having to think about hiring roles that do things that aren't just painting. This is a completely foreign thing that you now are responsible for. And I can totally understand how this could create some uncertainty in your business. And for me as a business owner, when I was at this stage, I remember the infatuation. I remember just doing estimates and feeling like I was progressing. I had one crew of 5 and they were cranking out work, but it felt like we were on a treadmill. I could only do one job at a time. I didn't really establish leadership. I was ordering all the paint. I was answering every phone call and missing some. I was responsible to follow up with all the leads. I would do this in the car while I was driving to estimates. No organization, no strategy, and no game plan. So what I had at that point in time was a really strenuous job. And unfortunately, that job was my business. And there is light at the end of the tunnel. If you're a business owner, I want you to know that if you can just get through this threshold and understand the principles behind scaling a business, then you can apply these same principles at any level of your growth. Now, the first thing you need to understand is that at this stage of your business, I agree that you are the best salesman to lead your team and to grow your company. I agree at this stage in your business, you do not need a salesperson. But what you do need is you need leadership on the job. Now, I can imagine at this stage, if you're between 300,000 and 500,000 of annual revenue, you find yourself on the job way too much. You are not only responsible for the sales, you are responsible for the end result on every single job. Not only do you want to start the job and greet the homeowner, you want to finish the job and say goodbye to the homeowner. Maybe there's an emotional attachment to the project, or maybe you don't quite trust your team enough to let them see the job from start to finish. This is a result of a lack of leadership. So rule number 1 to get out of the $300,000, $500,000 range is to establish leadership. Now, this is an area that takes a long time to perfect, but what I want you to do is not look at the best painter you have and say you are the leader. I want you to look for the individual that is the most loyal on your team, the person that shows up on time, the person that you can trust, the person that when you call, they answer the phone, the person that you know if they're on the job, they're doing what they're supposed to be doing. These are leadership traits that are going to serve you well, because the mindset needs to be that you as the business owner need to be in multiple places at once. Now, can you physically be in multiple places at once? Absolutely not. But your ideology, your mindset, your thought process, your principles can be in multiple places at once. And that's what you get out of finding someone that is prompt, on time, communicative, and shares a similar value system as you do. For me, if you have not established leadership on the job at this point in time, there could be a few reasons why. There could be some ego issues. Maybe the person that I'm describing is newer than someone that's been with you since the beginning. Maybe the person that I'm describing isn't quite ready in your eyes to take on leadership role. Maybe you're looking at costs and thinking, wow, I don't know if I can afford giving someone a raise right now. Number 2 reason why we haven't scaled beyond 300 to 500,000 is because we're taking too long to make decisions. Okay, now I don't know how long it took you when you quit your job to start your business, but for me, I went back and forth for months about quitting my job at the bank to make decision to start my business. Okay, I remember the back and forth. I remember consoling with everyone around me about the big decision to go into the unknown world of business, the scary elements of not having any work or failing. Like, I remember what that was like. And I imagine you went through something similar. You're in the place now, okay? It's time to make decisions fast. You went through your time period of second guessing everything. You did it. You got the business up. You got the LLC. You got the website. You got the logo. You're in business. Now, don't stop making decisions. You should be making faster decisions every single time. That first decision that you made to quit your job should be the longest tenured decision that you ever have in your business. When it comes to making business decisions, they need to be made quick, fast, and with the mindset that you need to make decisions in order to grow and learn. You have to understand that if you don't establish leadership in an individual, then you'll never know if the leadership is within the individual. You'll never know what the outcome is, right? You'll never know. And the thing about it is that there's totally a chance you can make the wrong decision. But the beautiful aspect of business is that you become a better decision maker, especially because next time you'll have that reference point. I don't know who's in your business. I'm just going based off of principles. And the principle is, to me, is that if you're spending way too much time on the job, it's because you haven't established leadership. And leadership is a key component scaling beyond $300,000 through $500,000 a year. Now, with that said, if a large majority of your time is focused on the job, I'm going to assume that you're probably going over the scope of work with the customer. Maybe there's a lack of communication between you and the team and the customer, right? So what we need to develop is a system. We need a project management system. First thing I recommend is obviously DripJobs. DripJobs is an entire CRM that not only allows you to send proposals, but it has a work order component. That work order component is vital for when you're wanting to be in two places at once. I remember when I first started my business, I didn't have DripJobs. I didn't really have a great software. What I would find myself doing is sending a text message this long to my team, letting them know all the different components of the job, everything that I promised during the sale, and no pictures. Really, what that caused was confusion, and it required me to be there to say, hey, this room goes this color, this room goes this color. Oh yeah, the customer wants this done first. So that was one of the reasons why I felt like I had to be on the job a lot, simply because I didn't have a good system in place. With DripJobs, we have a digital work order that is a duplicate, an exact copy of the proposal. What does this mean? Well, whatever the customer signs and agrees to is exactly what the team is going to have access to. So everything is exactly the same. Not only that, we use Company Cam, which allows us to create annotations and gives us photos that are taken during the estimate so the team can see what they're getting into. Those two things alone should stop you from having to start projects with your team. Establishing leadership and creating a back-end system to allow your team to have the right information and, more importantly, photos of what they're getting into should free up your time. Now, what do you do with this excess time? This is the big question for owner operators that are stuck in the sales role. How do you get beyond the $300K to $500K realm? I'll tell you this, it's not more sales, because what we find in the painting business is supply and demand. Supply and demand in the painting business is extremely skewed. There is way more demand than there is supply. So it's not a matter of more sales, it's your production capacity. Really, establishing leadership not only frees you from the job, what it allows you to do is think about starting a new crew. See, when you have a crew that's able to produce work without you having to be there to the standard of which you expect, it gives you the confidence to hire another crew. See, again, this isn't about sales. This is about your production capacity. The thing about it is, if you got 100 sales tomorrow, you would not be able to fulfill the promises of those sales in a reasonable time. So what you want to do is ensure that you have the production capacity to handle the demand. Now, what's interesting about the time period we live in right now is that marketing has never been easier. We have access to Facebook, Google, Angie, Thumbtack, all these different resources that can generate us interested individuals. And all you have to do is get a little better at sales, and you're going to find that you can close those jobs faster than you can produce them. So the key here is to get to 2 producing crews that can produce on average between 600 and 800,000 a year. This is 100% possible in the repaint market. Now, how do you do that? Number 1, we need to establish leadership. At that point, you're gonna need 2 leaders on the crew. Now, for me, I would outline an SOP of what a crew leader's responsibilities are and make sure that you not only outline that to your new crew leader, but use that as a way to create a job description for a future crew leader, or, best case scenario, hire from within. But that transition from 1 to 2 crews, I remember being a very new, completely foreign transition for me. Instead of having to only worry about 1 job, it now became worrying about 2 jobs. And if you're not used to this could totally be a little intimidating. But I want to give you a secret strategy that not many people who are not in this industry will not understand. The thing about it is that it can be a slow process. So let me give you an example. If you have a crew of 4 team members painting jobs for you and you establish leadership in one of the crew members, this is good news. You might think, okay, I'm ready to branch off and create a second crew. Well, in order to create a second crew, you need to establish leadership. So this gives you an opportunity to hire from within and reward someone who has been giving you their best to help you grow. Instead of thinking that you need 2 jobs every day, the way I did it was I took that new leader and 1 other person and I created 2 teams of 2 just for the interim. And what's great about that was I got to experience early on, without the pressure, what it felt like to keep 2 crews busy. If it doesn't work, you can always go back to 1 crew. And essentially, you're not making any new hires. Now, if you really want to double down, this is where you get a little risky and you do make the hires. So instead of splitting the crew into 2s, you now have a crew of 3 and 2, which requires you to add a new hire. You might be thinking, this is completely scary to me because sometimes I have trouble keeping 1 crew busy. Totally understand. But here's the deal. You need to make an investment. See, when you are a business owner, you have to understand that your capacity to grow is either stifled by your decision making, or in other words, it's opened up by your decision making. So for me, decision making comes down to risk. Everything that we do as business owners comes down to our risk tolerance. See, if you started a painting business and grew it to $1 million, if you were to start a new painting business, you would grow it to $1 million in probably a quarter of the time. Why? Simply because you've already made the decisions and you know the principles and you have confidence. So risk, especially if this is your first business, is obviously limited. Now, I want to give you a little bit of strategy to help you understand how to make better decisions when it comes to scaling your business. Because again, the only thing stopping you from getting from 300K to 500K to 7 figures is your risk tolerance and your ability to make tough decisions. You need to double down on your marketing. So if you have marketing spend at $2,000, when you branch out to that second crew, you're going to want to double that. Why? Because you need double the leads in order to keep another team busy. But what you'll find is that not only are you going to double your marketing, you're going to double the amount of estimates you do. The painting business is a numbers game. It's always been. It's just a matter of how many leads you get, how many estimates you do, how many jobs you sell, and how many jobs you can produce. Establishing the production is key. You've got to split up your teams. Now, having 2 crews of 2, to me, is the same as keeping 1 crew of 4 busy. To me, I believe that the production capacity, general rule of thumb, you can establish $100,000 worth of revenue per employee. So if you have 2 crews of 3, you can expect to generate anywhere between $500,000 and $600,000. To me, maximum output, your ability to create almost 7-figure business, comes down to your ability to establish a production system that can handle the demand. So I'm going to give you my last little round off of points that you need to remember for this video. Number 1, you cannot be on the job. How do we make that a reality? Number 2, you have to establish leadership. That requires having a great back-end system like DripJobs to make sure everyone's on the same page. Number 3, you have to create that SOP. You have to create that job description because we need to prepare for a second leader. I'm going to assume that maybe you don't have 2 leaders on the crew, but if you do, great news. Create opportunity for your team. This is going to increase loyalty and it's going to give you confidence to add that second crew, knowing that it's someone that you already work with. And number 4, most important, the biggest point of it all, decision making, risk tolerance. Understand that when you first started your business, you took the biggest risk of it all. You started your business with the unknown ahead. You started your business and quit your job, and ultimately you can't stop making tough, risky decisions just because you're on the other side. Ultimately, what's interesting about business is that your decision making and the risks that you take are directly proportionate to your growth. So with that said, in order to scale, it comes down to your decision making and building out that production process first, doubling your marketing, which doubles your sales output. Now, here's the kicker. Remember, if we're doubling our marketing and we're doubling our estimates, that means that we have less time than we do now. That's why it's important to establish an independent production system that runs without you, that has checks and balances. Everyone's on the same page. Now, if you're like me, you love your customers. This isn't about you not going to the jobs. This is about you going to the jobs just to say hello, not going to jobs to manage. Big difference. So with that said, I want to thank you for watching this. I hope this was insightful for you. If you liked what you heard, make sure you subscribe. I'd love to make sure that you're notified. I try to put out videos every single week to help you scale your business, give you a different mindset, and help you grow so you can not only support your family, but create jobs for people that desperately need them and jobs where they get to work for an amazing leader. With that said, I'd love for you to check out DripJobs. DripJobs is a CRM, and a CRM is what you need to grow your business. Not only does it organize and automate follow-ups to all your leads, estimates, opportunities, but it's a project management system that keeps you organized, updates customers, sends reminders, helps you schedule your jobs. A lot of features in DripJobs. I'd love for you to try it out. You can check out a 14-day trial at DripJobs.com. Last, make sure you check out my Skool community. My Skool community is jam-packed with courses and training to help you grow your business. My favorite course is the hiring course. It's a 14-lesson course that's going to give you a bulletproof strategy to help you hire talent in your business as easy as you can imagine on autopilot. So with that said, I want to thank you so much for checking out this video. I hope you got a lot out of it, and we'll see you on the next one.